What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus package update, stimulus check update, daily news, everything going on here in our country, in Washington, D.C., and with our economy, money, investing, the stock market, everything you need to know about on a daily basis. If you're new to our YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here on our YouTube channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. There's a big thing brewing in the Senate right now, and that is the Democratic Party potentially getting rid of the filibuster. The filibuster is the rule. It's a very, very old rule that has been weakened and reduced and changed several different times that requires normally 60 votes to pass a normal bill in the Senate. Remember that the last stimulus package, the third stimulus check package, they used a special process known as the reconciliation process, where you only need a simple majority, 50 to 51 votes, and that's how they passed the third stimulus check package. That's also how the Democrats are trying to pass the Build Back Better package, although now there might be a couple other ways to pass it as well, such as presidential executive order, maybe even doing a couple different ways with Republicans, passing the child tax credits with Republicans as well is one potential option. There's talk of stimulus checks. There's millions of people pushing for those. There's talk of stimulus packages for the virus because of how bad it is right now. And even some Republicans support that as well. But there's a big push right now for voting rights. Okay. And Democrats want to reform this. And in doing this, they want to remove the filibuster for voting rights and potentially remove the filibuster altogether. Removing the filibuster would make it so you would only need 50 to 51 votes in the Senate, a simple majority. So if they do this for voting rights or altogether, this would make it much easier to pass bills in the Senate. You could pass bills with only 50 to 51 votes. I say 50 to 51 because if there's a tie, now remember that, so for example, sometimes if it's 50-50 in the Senate, right now there's 50 Democrats and there's 50 Republicans, if everybody shows up to vote. So, for example, there's been a couple votes here recently where, say, if a Republican doesn't show up, a couple of the recent votes here where they went with a simple majority was 50 Democrats and 49 Republicans, then it passes because it's a simple majority. But if all the Republicans show up and it's 50-50, then the tiebreaker goes to the Vice President of the United States, who's the President of the Senate. Okay. The Vice President of the United States is the President of the Senate. And that happens to be Vice President Kamala Harris. She will step in for the tiebreaker vote, which is the 51st vote if needed, if they need that extra vote in the case of a tiebreaker. That she can only step in if there's a tie. Okay. So they're potentially talking about getting rid of the filibuster, and Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema potentially are on board here. And that's what Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is pushing them for. This is major, major news. And this might be happening very, very soon. In fact, we have an interview from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's a Democrat from New York, speaking exactly about this. He's going to get a little bit technical here, but altogether, he's explaining about potentially getting rid of the filibuster. This is very, very big news because if they get rid of the filibuster, depending on how they do it, this means that they would, if they do it just for voting rights or if they do it in its entirety, this means that they would be able to pass bills with just 50 to 51 votes, standalone bills. Again, depending on how it ends up. What's interesting is you can see here from this article back from 2018, in when the Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency underneath former President Donald Trump. Trump wanted to get rid of the filibuster. You can see the headline, Trump to the Republicans, dump the filibuster before Schumer does. And now Chuck Schumer is the Senate Majority Leader. Trump wanted to get rid of the filibuster because, again, when Republicans were in control of the Senate, it blocked their path to passing bills. Now it's blocking the path for Democrats to passing bills. It's just a huge roadblock to passing a lot of bills in the Senate. And if they're able to do this, it would be a major change in the Senate and would make it much easier to pass bills, all type of bills, stimulus package bills, stimulus check bills, depending on how they do this. So check this out. Here's Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer talking about getting rid of the filibuster. Very interesting.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has promised that Senate Democrats will do what it takes to protect and strengthen American democracy. In a letter, he vowed to hold a vote on rules changes to the Senate filibuster to move forward on blocked voting rights legislation. Schumer wrote, quote, "Let me be clear. January 6th was a symptom of a broader illness, an effort to delegitimize our election process, warning that without Senate action, the events of January 6th could become the new norm." Schumer stressed, "We must adapt. The Senate must evolve, like it has many times before." The Senate will debate and consider changes to Senate rules on or before January 17th, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, assuming that Senate Republicans will continue to block the legislation, which you should. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer joins me now. And, sir, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here. So tell us, what are the specific rules changes that you are considering putting on the floor?
Well, first, Joy, let me just say that what happened on January 6th is a direct continuation of, or the big lie which Donald Trump perpetrated, created January 6th, and that is a continuation of what's happening around the country. You had Mrs. Sicknick on, and we all pray for her in peace and mourn her loss. But right now, election officials, nonpartisan election officials, just plain people who are doing their job to count votes, are being threatened in state after state with violence. A few of them have had to have police protection. So the idea that January 6th is totally a one-off is wrong. It's now being perpetrated by this attempt to take away voting rights of so many people, people of color, young people, people who live in urban areas, handicapped people, elderly people. And so we have to fight against this. And we, as you said, Joy, it would be great if Republicans would join with us. You know, in the past, it was always bipartisan voting rights. President Reagan, President W. Bush, President H.W. Bush, all supported voting rights, and they passed overwhelmingly. But the new Republican Party, under the leadership of Donald Trump, is viciously against voting rights and trying to take those away and jaundice not only our elections, but our whole democracy. So if we can't get Republicans to join us, we are exploring a variety of different rules changes, and we are working and trying to get all 50 Democrats, including Senators Manchin and Sinema, to go along with those rules changes. Because if we don't change the rules, the Republicans will block this, and our democracy could be at risk and even wither in real ways.
And I think everyone who's watching the show agrees with that that these voting rules changes must happen because democracy is at stake. But let me present you with a couple of rules change options that have been presented by people, including on this show. So Al Franken, friend of the Readout, and Norm Ornstein have put forward one idea to reform the filibuster, meaning you'd flip the numbers from 60 votes required to end debate to 41 required to continue it, moving the burden from the majority to the minority, meaning the minority could still prevail, but it will require a major effort by the minority to accomplish its ends. And for both sides, bipartisan compromise might be the best way to do that. There's another option, which is by a gentleman named Jeff Blattner, who was the former chief counsel to Senator Ted Kennedy. And this is a reform that could actually work without changing the filibuster at all. So it says this: when it comes to major legislation, it would assure that the minority gets a full debate and the right to offer relevant amendments. After an extended period elapses without offering of an amendment gaining bipartisan support, the supporters of the bill could then move on, invoke cloture, cut off debate by a simple majority vote. The minority would have had its say, boom, and then we can move on, and they can have accepted improvements. Have the two conservative Democrats who've been standing in the way of changing the filibuster signed on to anything that looks like either of those two options?
We are having active discussions with them, several a day. I just spoke to Senator Manchin 3 or 4 hours ago. And even over the holiday break, the New Year's and Christmas break, we've been talking constantly, not just me, but just about every one of the 48 Democratic senators who supports not only the proposal, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Restore the Voting Rights Act, but changing the rules. There are a variety of different rules changes, some of which you've mentioned, some of which you haven't, which we're exploring with them, which we're pushing with them. And whichever one works to get us to have voting rights kept, to undo the pernicious activities of the Republican legislatures, we will accept. And we're having constant discussions. And we've said to them, you, both Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, say they believe in voting rights. Good. That's great. And they are sponsors of the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Act. But just to believe in it and not change the rules. And we're making it clear to them, Joy, that even a paragon who believed in the Senate rules, Robert C. Byrd, changed the rules 9 times. And he said, and I think I have his quote pretty accurately here, when circumstances change, the rules have to change. Well, let me tell you something. Circumstances have changed dramatically with Donald Trump, the big lie, the violence of January 6th, and all the efforts to take away voting rights. And just one more point. The link between January 6th and what's happening across the country in Republican legislatures is crystal clear. And we are going to be talking about that link all week.
So yeah, that was Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Of course, he's a Democrat, so he's giving you his Democratic point of view. But remember that Republicans, even former President Donald Trump, wanted to get rid of the filibuster. Remember that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who was Senate Majority Leader, actually got rid of the filibuster to appoint Supreme Court justices as well. The filibuster has actually been reduced or removed in several different fashions throughout the years, and I think it's only a matter of time until it gets reduced or removed even more so going forward. You can let me know your thoughts. And some people are for it, some people are against it, but it has been reduced or removed multiple times throughout the years. It's a very, very, very old rule. In fact, it used to be 67 votes. And, as I said, Republicans have removed it. And it's probably only a matter of time until it's gone. Remember that the House of Representatives only requires a simple majority, 1 vote over 50%. And the Senate has this much higher threshold. It's actually closer to what they call a supermajority. Remember that a presidential veto requires a 67%. So it's very, very high. It's hard to get 60%. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here with this. And um, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says that they're going to hold this vote here very, very soon. So I'll keep you up to date on this because it's a very, very important change in the Senate on how they will get things done. And voting rights is a very, very big thing as well. It's a little bit controversial, especially with the whole not having to show your ID when you go to vote. I personally am not a fan with that. I mean, you have to show your ID to buy beer, to get on a plane, to have a car, to give it a driver's license, all sorts of things. So again, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, but I think you should have to have an ID to vote. I get the argument behind it that some people might not be able to afford an ID, but I mean you can get a state issued ID, I think, for free in most states. But I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I mean, if you need an ID to drive a car, to buy, tobacco or anything like that, why would you not need one to vote? And if you don't need an ID to vote, how do they prove who you are? I don't know. It gets a little out of this world when you kind of get into that. You could let me know your thoughts in the comments. Of course, everybody has a different point of view. And of course, anybody's point of view here is welcome. Just keep it clean in the comment section. Okay, another stimulus check I want to let you guys know about here for a state that is going to go out to, I think, over a lot of people. It's almost 1 million people here. A bonus $125 stimulus check being sent to, well, it says millions here, but I think it's just shy of 1 million. Do you qualify for a payment before this date. Indiana residents will receive a bonus $125 stimulus check when filing taxes this year. In 2022, this is for your 2021 tax return that you can file in 2022. Now that we're here in 2022, Americans will get their check either via mail or direct deposit, depending on how they file their 2021 tax return. I also am going to assume that you have to file a state tax return here. I'm going to assume that because this is for an Indiana state stimulus check of $125. Hey, every little bit adds up. An extra $125, extra $125. The last time Indiana residents received an automatic tax refund was in 2013. State law requires officials to hand taxpayers a refund if reserves, excluding education, total more than 12.5% of the general funding pot. The state has around $4 billion in reserves, equating to 23% of its general fund. I don't think that even counts their stimulus money from the American Rescue Plan. I'm not sure about that, but I think that this is just the state fund. Um, and I think that the stimulus money would be in addition to that. That's a guess, but I think so. Officials revealed that the refund total would be over $500 million, 545 million dollars. However, the state wasn't sure how much taxpayers would receive, according to the Indianapolis Star. It has now been revealed that Indiana residents will receive $125 back when they file their taxes. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb says despite a pandemic, Indiana exceeded all expectations and closed the fiscal year with an unprecedented amount of reserves. We have an obligation to put this money back into the hands of taxpayers instead of living it in the hands of the government. I think they mean to say leaving. And the state will work with around 910 low-income Americans that pay taxes but don't file the returns. Okay, so maybe there is more than a million here. It's just 910,000 that don't file tax returns. So maybe there's several million here from Indiana that are going to be getting these checks. And that probably is the case because the population of Indiana is 6.7 million as of 2019. So they're probably going to be sending out millions of checks. So that's pretty awesome. And I also want to note here that because they have $4 billion, they're probably going to have a refund next year is a good possibility. It's a good possibility. It is possible that future tax refunds could be automatically issued as the state revenues exceed targets by $644 million between July and November. So don't be surprised if Indiana has another stimulus check next year as well. Fingers crossed. So I'm going to keep you up to date on all different states here. Pretty much every other day or so, I have another state kind of announcing different programs like this. You need to file taxes here on this one from Indiana. I'm also going to assume you need to file an Indiana state tax return. If you're from Indiana, definitely look into this. Talk to your tax preparer or your accountant, or even call up your local H&R Block and just ask them on the phone about this. And of course, if you get somebody who doesn't know anything about it, you know call again and talk to somebody else, because I just read it to you on the screen, but it's like calling tech support. Sometimes you could call 10 people and 5 people might not know what you're talking about and 5 people do. But that's why I like showing you guys my sources right on the screen, so you know what I'm talking about. It's the truth, or it's a good credible source here. But definitely, if you're from Indiana, if you know anybody from Indiana, show them this video, share them this video. I'm going to be doing all sorts of states here in 2022 are probably going to be doing this. California just sent out stimulus checks for 27 million people. They're still sending those out, guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if California sends out another one in California was for 2021. I wouldn't be surprised if California sends out another one in 2022 because they have a plethora of money. And all of 50 states are sitting on billions of dollars this year. Okay, so this is probably going to be the year. Of course, we're hoping for federal stimulus checks and things like that. There's the Build Back Better package. There's a stimulus package being called upon as well on the federal level. Like a traditional stimulus package. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see dozens of states issue stimulus checks or tax refunds, or Michigan's doing that $400 refund for cars, whether you call it a stimulus check or refund, whatever it is, right? Who cares what they call it? Giving money back to their residents is what we want to see, right? Whether it's a tax refund, a car refund, a stimulus check, whatever it is, right? All that matters is money going back to the people, right? It doesn't matter what they call it. The goal is to help out people in their time of need, and it's a pandemic. So we want to continue to see that happening, and I'm going to keep you up to date here with everything going on here. In today's episode of You Can't Make This Stuff Up, it actually rained fish in Texas. I can't say that again. I'm going to say it again. It rained fish in Texas over the New Year's weekend to start the new year off, or to end 2021 in a fabulous fashion. It's raining fish. That's right. You heard it correctly. Check this out.
Security video at Discount Wheel and Tire in Texas shows heavy rain coming down on Wednesday afternoon. But to the surprise of many, more than water was falling from the sky.
Then I guess it started hailing.
Yep, wind blowing, rain, hailing.
And it could have been the fish slapping the top of the roof over his ears, too.
Yep.
That's right. It was raining fish in parts of Texarkana.
I didn't know what to think. I thought it's pretty cool. I started getting me a bucket and start picking them up and use them for fishing bait.
They're kind of fishy.
Work here went from installing tires to removing dead fish from the parking lot.
You see them all laying out there? They shine.
Miles away on Magnolia Street, Jeannie Tucker was out this morning checking for fallen fish in her yard and on top of her house.
I couldn't believe it. I don't know when it happened. I've never seen it before. So I've been tore them all apart. There's a lot of just pieces, like heads and bodies without the heads.
Never heard of that before. Never really heard of it happening.
Yeah.
Michael Berry with the National Weather Service out of Shreveport says, although rare, this event does happen.
The only way that I'm aware of how that could produce these small fish falling from the sky with a thunderstorm would be some sort of a water spout having sucked the water and anything in the water up into the cloud base.
Barry says this was the first time he's seen it raining fish in the Arklatex.
Yeah, so thanks to our viewers, Jason Jackson and Unforgiven, who both told me about that. And I was like, I better tell our viewers about this because you can't make this stuff up. I guess that a weather system went by and picked up water out of a lake, including the fish, and dropped it down on Texas. Imagine you're driving your car and your windshield wipers are going by, and all of a sudden your windshield wipers are wiping off fish off your car. Wow. So I guess 2022 is off to an interesting start, and we'll have to see how this year progresses, because it's interesting to say the least. I can't make this stuff up, and I'm so glad that we have video there to show it, because I didn't want to just say it, because I didn't believe it either. It's just like, how do you even come up with this stuff? But yet there it is. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see. We're not even a week into 2022 and it's raining fish. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll keep you up to date with everything going on here in our country, and who knows what's next. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It's completely free to do so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wow. You can click here to watch our newest video next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Try not to run into any fish today. Bye.